Not gonna bother me. Happy New Year and welcome to the Thursday Rotary Club of Hickory. Let's get this party started. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My country is of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Bob Schaffner has our invocation.
Let us pray. Lord our God, King of the universe and creator of all good things, we thank you for the good things that you are filling this day with for us. And we pray that you would lead us to share them in our community and wherever opportunities abound elsewhere. We also know that you look on your earth with some mourning because of the way that the weather is creating danger and damage and destruction for people around the world, including our own country. The way that senseless use of weapons is killing people, the way that terrorists keep us on the edge of our seats, the way that we continue to wonder how to solve many, many problems that exist among us. And we pray that you would bless us with clear minds and strong hearts and the willingness to talk with one another as we seek solutions. May we as a Rotary Club be a player in that effort. We thank you for this day, for this food, for the fellowship we share, and for all your blessings. For in your great name we pray. Amen.
Since this is the first year, let's take a quick second for handshakes and hugs. Visiting Rotarians. Tony, who do we have visiting today? Welcome, Floyd. Do we have any guests of Rotarians in the room today? Any guests of Rotarians? Linda?
Thank you. We have visiting again this week Jennifer Hunter Riley, dentist with the Catawba Family Practice.
Welcome. Happy to have you. Do we have any other guests of Rotarians? Announcements. Do we have any announcements today?
Tom Richards. Good to see you.
Mark?
Pretty happy announcement. My wife gave birth to our first baby on December 15th. She deserves the applause. But yeah, Leah Rose Gerson, she's doing fantastically. So is my wife. In fact, we just hiked up Baker's Mountain a couple days ago, the whole family. So yeah, had the baby in the Bjorn, so we're still on the road. So, but anyway, it's going well.
Congratulations. Sandy?
Of course, you all know we are getting ads for Rotarian Idol, and we just want to clarify, the Dream Team has been assigned all of the ads in our book from last year. And we've asked that everyone go out and solicit one ad, a new ad. And we have a stack of books up here that you can take so people can see what the ad looks like, and a sheet giving you the pricing and the sizes. We have set up an email account. It's rotarianidol@gmail.com, and that's where all the invoice or all of the ads that you've sold, the information, the artwork, everything will be sent there, and Lynn will be invoicing the companies if you don't pick up the check, and we will invoice them. Those are the normal ads we've had. This year we've added the personal ads, and that is an eighth of a page, and for $75 you can say something in memory of someone, or wish someone luck, or honor someone if you want to honor a person in your family. This is personal ads only, but that's another way that you can help us get to our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. And one more time, just to make sure that it's rotarianidol@gmail.com, and all ads need to be sent there. And I believe we got off to a good start at the Christmas party, is that correct? We have 34 ads already. That's great. The Green Dream Team is well on the way, but they need everybody's help. I introduced, he's up there. Orange is up there. Mr. Idol is on the podium at the front, right where the microphone usually goes. And that's just a reminder for anybody that's a new member. I thought about when I introduced it last meeting before the end of the year. A lot of people are probably thinking, why does he have Mr. Idol written on an orange? If you didn't know, and it was before my time, this club has done a number of fundraisers. One of them is they sold oranges. Is that correct? You did not sell oranges. You would be selling oranges, and Steve figured out 110 it would be semis and semis and semis of oranges to raise the kind of money that we raised through Rotarian Idol. So this is our one fundraiser of the year. We ask everybody to participate in getting a new ad and purchasing your tickets. We've got a group working on putting together folks that want to take donations, school choirs, seniors, things like that, that will be interested in using your tickets if you don't have a venue to use them. So we want to get those tickets used. But please, we cannot stress enough, this is our one fundraiser a year. This is our one chance to raise some money to do good in our area. So, do we have any other announcements? Lisa.
Well, I want to thank everyone here who bought tickets for this weekend for the evening with Steve Hickory, because it's sold out. Everything's sold out. So, yay! And I'm putting $2 in because we're also, Steve McCurry will be on Charlotte Talks tomorrow, and that's a big deal. And I don't know if Clem had anything to do with that, but, you know, anybody who's helped with that, thank you very much. And Missy's here, she's on our steering committee, so yay, Missy, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Lynn?
Many of you may have wondered where is Dan Kirby, because he is not where he always is sitting. He had a knee replacement right before Christmas. He is at Conover Rehab right now. He had it done in Charlotte. He is doing absolutely wonderful. I talked with him this morning. He would love to have calls or company. I told him I was going to mention it if it was okay. He's in room 304, and I have his telephone number to his room if you would like it. He'll probably be back in a couple of weeks, and I'm kind of trying to fill in, but I can tell you it is amazing the amount of things that he does and how many people he has checking on what I'm doing to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And you know, one other thing, when I was talking to him this morning, I could just envision Dan sitting there with his coat and tie on and his polished shoes. That's all. His glasses.
Thanks, Lynn. That's great that that's gone successful. We look forward to getting Dan back. Do we have any other announcements? We do want to mention on the tables, we've got 2 members on the tables today. We have Bethany And also, flip through my pages here. Charles, I believe, right? Charles Reeves, Bethany and Delaney are on the tables today. Also wanted to remind everybody, coming up, Stop Hunger Now is one of the other things that we give money to and that we volunteer, and that's going to be coming up in March 5th, and they will be looking for volunteers for that. Also, you're certainly welcome to make a donation if you like, and they'll have two groups. They don't know the exact times, but it looks like probably 9 and noon, I think. Cliff, do you something on that or something different?
I don't think. Can you all hear me okay? I usually can. I just wanted also, in regard to the health of the club, Joe Brett had open heart surgery before Christmas, and actually the first surgery went pretty well. It was a valve replacement type of surgery, but he had to go back in for some additional surgery the week after that. He is home now and doing well and recuperating well, but I know he's going to keep thinking about it, keeping our prayers, and also wanted you to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Also, you probably saw in the spoke, after 15 years of service, Stan is going to need to step down from doing the spoke. We appreciate everything he's done in his efforts. He's willing to help somebody, but we need somebody to take over for that. So if you have an interest in serving the club in that way, please let us know. We can get you set up. He's going to do it through the end of January, and he certainly will be there to assist people as they transition over, but we really need somebody to take that over, starting with the first meeting in February, and hopefully work for a week or two at the end of January with Stan. So please see us. Please, if you think that's an area that you can contribute, please let us know. Also remind everybody, I did put a few calendars on the table of some upcoming events that we have for the second half of this Rotary year, but also February 11th is our anniversary luncheon. It'll be our 95th year, and if I'm not mistaken, the 11th is the actual day of the first meeting, so please make sure you plan on attending on February 11th. Sunshine Committee report, John Bates.
Such an underwhelming response. Well, I had been alerted by Clarence to look for Dan, but Lynn covered that, and so we know about him. I was also advised this morning that Jill Patton's mother had a stroke and is at Baptist. No other information on that. For those who had birthdays in the last half of December, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are, but happy birthday. But since January 1st, Joab Cotton on the 1st, Kyler Dunbar on the 3rd, and Michael Blackburn on the 7th. Happy birthday to you. I was cleaning out some stuff. I'm still trying to unpack some of the stuff I just threw together at the last minute before we moved. It's only been 8 years. But that's all right. Some of that stuff was things we had moved before, 20 years earlier, and some things that from when I was cleaning out my mother's. And I found this clipping, and I have to share it with you. It's from the Thursday, August 1st, 1957, Bainbridge, Georgia Post-Searchlight. John Bates is guest speaker at regular Rotary Club meeting. I've been doing this for a long time. The regular weekly meeting of the Rotary Club was held Tuesday, July 30th at the Stephen Decatur Hotel. President R.T. Willis presided. Jackie Tennell had charge of the program and presented John Bates, son of Mr. and Mrs. Clarence Bates. John gave a very informative report on the Boy Scout Jamboree held recently at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. That was my first public speaking gig. So anyway, and Mother had saved the clipping, as they do. Another thing, just a little humor, ran across this one. Pat says to his friend Mike that he has developed a plan for eating for free in really good restaurants. So I simply go in well past 9 p.m., eat several courses slowly, and linger over coffee, dessert, and a cigar. This was obviously a long time ago, until they are cleaning up. I keep sitting there until eventually a waiter comes and asks me to pay. Then I say, I've already paid my original waiter, who apparently has left for the night. And because I'm well dressed and have an honest face, the waiter takes my word for it, and I simply walk out the front door as calm as can be. Mike is clearly impressed and says, let's try it this evening. Pat agrees and books them into an expensive 5-star restaurant. They eat like kings, and just as before, right at 2 a.m., they're both sitting quietly after enjoying their very full meal. Sure enough, the waiter comes over and hands them a bill and asks them to pay. Pat calmly says, I've already paid our original waiter, who has left for the evening. The waiter stands there for a moment silently, and then Mike adds, and we're still waiting for the change.
Thank you, John. Linda, did you have an update on John LaFontaine's wife? He had sent an email, and I have thought I brought it, but I don't have it, on Emily.
Nothing since his last email, and didn't that go out to everybody?
I don't believe so. I believe she's still going, she's done chemo a few times, and they have to do a few more tests this next couple of weeks. Is that correct?
Right, and her brother, I think, was a match for her for bone marrow transplant.
For a bone marrow transplant, her brother.
They're in that process right now of making that happen.
Okay. So if you could keep them in your prayers, they're obviously still going through the process of all that. If we don't have any other announcements, Bob Conklin has our program.
Great. Lisa Swenson gave a very good report on Steve McCurry being sold out on Saturday night. So if you don't have tickets, I've got great news. We're going to have a presentation here next Thursday, right? So we'll be able to see all those photographs.
But Steve won't be here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's okay. And the week after next, we have friends at Hickory coming to do a report on what they've been working on and their progress in our great city. So next 2 weeks should be exciting. Well, I'm very excited today to introduce our speaker, Adrian Rice. He's been here before. I know sitting up here at the table, a lot of you have come up and just laughed when you saw him because you remember what he spoke on last time. This time he's here really to push a new book that he's written, and he's going to talk more about that. He's from Northern Ireland, and he's considered a distinctive new voice in Irish poetry. Adrian does workshops and readings and lectures in the U.S. as well as the U.K. and Ireland. He's musically gifted. He's part of the Belfast Boys, which I've got a CD of here. He settled in Hickory after being a writer in residence at Lenore-Rhine. He fell in love with his wife Molly, who went back to Ireland with him. They came back, and he now has a son, Micah, who participates in the YMCA. He spent time teaching at LR. He's taught at Appalachian State, Duke, CVCC. He's currently working on his doctorate at App State. And again, he's here to share with us his new book, Hickory Station, which I have a copy of. So I present Adrian Rice.
I guess I need this, don't I? Yeah, that'd be helpful. Probably the biggest change from the last time would be these glasses. You know, even poets age, apparently. I'm kind of nervous. Nobody told me there'd be a police officer in the room, you know. I am an Irish poet, you know. The last time I read in front of police officers was quite an occasion. I forgot that this was actually the Rotary Club that's famous as a comedy club. You know? So I was coming to read a lot of poems. I won't read as many poems, you know, but I want to celebrate the porch, the Hickory porch, because I've come to realize that, I mean, I've been in Hickory for 10 years now, which is kind of remarkable. I came for 6 months, and I'm still here 10 years later. Now that must say something, not just about my mental health, but something about Hickory. And you know, I've been probably as guilty as some other people, you know, kind of running Hickory down now and again as not being as exciting as Asheville or as mountainy as Boone or whatever. But I have to tell you, if you're involved with bringing new businesses here and all the good work that I see going on in Hickory, please stop. Because if you keep going, I'm going to stop writing poems. Because I want to go out everywhere. I want to go and enjoy. There's far too many good things happening in Hickory. And it's starting to take my attention away from sitting on the porch on my own and just getting ideas for poems. We used to joke about, you know, let's go to Asheville, get inspired. Now it's like, you know, I don't need to go to Asheville to get inspired. I mean, I've really noticed in the last few years that Hickory has definitely taken off. I don't think it's just spoof. I don't think it's just, you know, maybe use bumming it up maybe in an unmerited way. I think it's really merited. So I'm really here to tell you that too. I didn't plan on telling you that. But I am noticing that I'm being tempted much more to actually go out and socialise and go to new restaurants and new bars even, places like that. And you know, that's a major thing. This place is definitely picking up. I'm really impressed by it. So I'm actually even more than happy to live here. But I love the porch. I love your porches. The whole concept of a porch is radical for an Irishman. I mean, Ireland, when my wife lived with me in Ireland for 5 years, Molly, she used to call her grandmother at least a couple of times a week. The grandmother lives up outside Charlotte. And the grandmother would always ask, what is the weather like? And Molly would always say, it's very simple. It's either just rained, it's raining, or it's about to rain. And she said, to be honest with you, if I had to describe it, I would have to describe myself actually as feeling like a mushroom. So there is no need for porches in Ireland. There really isn't. And I think because of probably you're as addicted probably as anybody else, as the young people that ever to these roving devices that are being peddled towards us, all these iPhones and all of that. Luckily I don't own one. I refuse to own a cell phone. I'm probably the only person I know that doesn't own a cell phone because I know I would be addicted to it. And I see everybody else being addicted to it. And you can't write poems if you own a cell phone. I really believe that. You can't write good poems anyway. You're too busy on your cell phone. And so on the porch, when I sit on the porch on Little 4th Avenue Northwest, where I get the ideas for my poems, I don't have a cell phone with me. I don't have a screen. I love the computer and I love my little Facebook nonsense and all the rest of it, but I leave that inside. And so I just sit on the porch, 4th Avenue Northwest, beside Lamar and Chris Ann Mitchell's house. We actually still rent from the wonderful Lamar and Chris Ann Mitchell. And I sit in their little house that they let us rent beside theirs, and I just look at things, and I listen. And dare I say it, I think. And dare I say it, I think my own thoughts. You know, it's a remarkable thing. The porch is absolutely sensational. It's made me go from being somebody who wrote just a few, what I thought were good poems a year, to now having published 2 books in the last 5 years that are 300 pages of poetry based in Hickory. And that means there's 300 or 400 or 500 more pages of poetry that I haven't included in those 2 books. But it's the porch has released it. It's that quiet space where you sit on your own. Of course, little Micah comes out to annoy me, so does Molly, of course. But they largely let me sit out there at nights. And you can do that a long time in Hickory. You've got good weather most of the year. So I just sit on my own. And I knew I was on to something whenever I have 2 books with me. One's called The Clock Flower, a little dandelion, and the new one's Hickory Station. But when The Clock Flower came out, I gifted a copy to Lamar and Chris Ann, as I always do. And I went out in the dark one night to put the bins out, as we call it back home, the bins, the trash can, to the edge of the road. And in the darkness I heard this voice say, "Bastard." And I actually went, "That's Lamar." Now, you've probably heard him say "bastard," I haven't. You know? And I thought, and I'm looking around going, "Where is he?" And he came up out of the little cellar towards the back door, and he looked at me and he said, "You're a bastard." But he was smiling, and I thought, well, I haven't done anything wrong then, obviously. He said, "What's wrong?" He said, "How have I missed it all? How have I missed it all? How do you do it? How do you see these things? Why haven't I seen them?" He said, "I was brought up in that house you're living in with my grandmother. I've sat on that porch more times than you've even sat on that porch, believe it or not. I live in the house next door to it, on the same street." And he said, "Adrian, I've read your book cover to cover several times, and I am ashamed. I am not living. I am missing everything around me of any value." That's an extraordinary thing to say. I mean, it almost brought me to tears at the time, because I knew I must be doing something right with these little silly poems. But it's true, we miss everything. And what poetry is about, serious poetry, as the great Irish poet, I'm sure you've heard his name, Seamus Heaney, titled one of his books in 1995. It's about seeing things. Seeing things. He's got a great poem about an old myth from Ireland of the monks of Clonmacnoise. And it's meant to be true, but it's 1,000 years old. It's probably not true, but the monks of Clonmacnoise Monastery, it's in ruins now on the border between North and South Ireland. You can still go and visit the monastery ruins. But those monks were famous for making these 4 big books called the Annals of the Four Masters. Just big books of history and mythology. And Heaney was just innocently reading through some microfilm from the Annals of the Four Masters, and he came across the story of the monks being at prayer inside the monastery one morning, and a strange supernatural ship appears in midair, and it's got an anchor, and the anchor hooks itself into the altar rail in the church. And the monks, of course, are like about to die from heart attacks, but they realize that a man is climbing, a strange alien guy, but a man is climbing down the little anchor and trying to release it, because to this ship our air is like water, and the man is drowning in our air. And so the chief monk, the abbot, says, "This man can't bear our life here and will drown unless we help him." And so the monks get their act together, and they go, and they actually do, believe it or not, they do the Christian thing, which is unusual. They actually do the Christian thing. They don't kill this strange man. They don't take over the ship and steal the contents. They go and help this man free the anchor. And Heaney says, the freed ship sailed, and the man climbed back out of the marvelous as he had known it. Now, when I teach that poem to kids or adults or whatever, I always talk about the end. I will ask the kids or the adults, what's the marvelous thing about that poem? And they will all say, the weird guy in the ship, the strange ship, it's like something from Star Wars or Star Trek, beam me up, Scotty, whatever, they'll do all that. And I say, yeah, that's kind of fantastic, obviously, it's obvious. I said, but is Heaney saying that at the end of the poem? And they kind of look at you, and I read it again. The freed ship sailed. Heaney doesn't say, and the man climbed back into the marvelous from where he had come. He says the man climbed back out of the marvelous as he had known it. So in other words, Heaney is saying that to the man in the strange ship, we are incredible. We're marvelous. This world is spectacular. This world is otherworldly. Something to write home about. This world is something to shout about. And so Heaney is really saying, we've got to wake up. And I honestly, that is the biggest disease over here. It's the biggest disease back home as well, I'm sure. It's that people are walking around sleepwalking with their faces in phones and in screens, ignoring each other most of the time. Actually being ignorant to each other most of the time. Bad-mannered. That's what's happening. And they're not seeing, they're not looking at fellow humans going, you are an absolute miracle. If we just took your eye and did a study of the human eye alone, it's enough to freak you out just how complex and wonderful a human eye is. So the porch is really, the porch allows me to think, not being fed by memes, by silly texts, McDonald's fast food text messages, or just blah 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 blah. It allows you to sit with nature actually, because you're on a little side street and there's people about, but thankfully there's not a lot of people about. I like people, by the way, I love them, but thankfully I spend most of my time on the porch probably with nature in a strange way. Really, really odd, but it's absolutely wonderful. So I'll just read a couple of poems. Don't want to get too serious on you. I'll read one that unfortunately has a bad word in it. Is that okay? But it has to be there. It's the poem that really made me realise, just how important the porch was to me, to be honest. I come from north of Belfast. I won't go into it in great detail. I did the last time, from the Hood, north of Belfast. So I grew up through the wall, literally one brick. My neighbour on the right-hand side was the head of the UDA, the Ulster Defence Association, one of the people who opposed the IRA. And so I lost lots of friends and, had to steal cars for people who went and shot people and things like that. That's what we had to do when we were teenagers. Or you'd get killed. It's as simple as that. Thankfully, education, school, a teacher, and poetry saved my life. That's literally what turned my life around. So I was sitting on the porch one night, a couple of years ago, beautiful night, one of your beautiful Hickory evenings, drinking my little glass of white wine. I think at that point it wasn't a red, it was a white. And it was as if somebody just suddenly appeared in front of me, just at the edge of the road, on the edge of the yard, as you call it. We would call it the garden. Like a ghost from my past. A real tough guy from my past kind of appeared. And anyway, he says the words at the end with the bad word, so it's not me saying the bad word. This poem's neighbourhood. I dwell in a neighbourhood where most driveways are laid with white marble stones, of a kind which are normally raked over posh people's graves, and where the house opposite is a dead ringer for the only home I could ever draw easily at school. Roofed square, 4 windows, winding path to door. And where the green grassy garden is treated to a trim, never having been left long enough to merit a cut. And where I can sit on my porch and read and dream and sip chilled wine for hours on end, while tree frogs and cicadas blend their comforting evening fugue, and the only thing to fear is the nightly mosquito. What a change from the streets of my wrath-cooled childhood, when if I stood at our door and simply gazed out, I'd be greeted with, "Who the fuck are you looking at?" So that's a huge difference, to go from that environment to the privilege of a little rented house in 4th Avenue Northwest and sitting on the porch. And I'm really grateful for that porch. I'll read a little poem called Mosquito for a poet back home called Ian Dewey. He sent me a huge picture of a mosquito up close with the slogan, WT ? What the? He said, "You have these things?" I said, "They're everywhere." He said, "What? Get out of that country. We have nothing back home that can kill you, except people." Nothing. There's not even a mosquito that can bite you. There's nothing. Your kids, you can park on the side of the road, you know, fields and woods and mountains, and as long as you're confident that you can keep an eye on your kids, you can just let your little 5-year-old run barefoot straight into it. No spiders, there's no poison ivy, nothing's going to kill you back home. It's really remarkable. Here, you're surrounded by death-dealing monsters. And mosquitoes are one of them, so I wrote this poem, tongue-in-cheek, for my friend Ian Dewey, Mosquito. Ian, in the kingdom of porch, when natural light dims, we Irish are huge human blood banks fit for the robbing. As you can imagine, it's never good when the super saver citronella candle, wax-shaped to the big black metal bucket, goes suddenly out. When that Pope-hatted flame has burnt an almighty hole through the candle heart down to the bare bucket base. So I rush in and out, take a sharp kitchen knife to the plentiful side slabs and watch them crumble inwards as easily as Arctic ice. A flaring flame greets once again the grateful wink. Relatively unbidden, thinking of you, I put my head religiously back in the books. And quickly, this is the one I want to peddle to you, Hickory Station. The cover is actually me, would you believe? The publisher played to my vanity. There's a little photo in the back of me actually sitting on the porch. But this front cover, it's not really anything to do with Hickory Station, the wonderful new restaurant and bar. This was just snapped one night years ago before it was a restaurant and bar. Late night in the snow. But I realized when I kept looking at this picture going, I think I'm being told the title of my new book. That old cowboy Hickory Station sign that used to be there. I thought, I just need to put my name on that and call my book Hickory Station, and that's a book cover. And it's really accurate because really this 180-page book is like my kind of love letter to Hickory. And it's like I'm stationed in Hickory. This is where I'm still stationed 10 years later, happily still stationed. So everything in this book, apart from a little section, small section at the end, is really all based from the porch, all the ideas I've got and whatever. So just let me share, can I do 2 quick ones?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll share one from the porch and then one that isn't from the porch but was obviously written on the porch. I might as well stick with the little, the bird idea or the animals idea. So let's see if I can get. Here's one called Wasps. On an unseasonably warm afternoon, I'm back on the porch, and the little wasps are trying to build in the hollow arms and legs of my aluminum chair. They're determined, as they are every spring, to inhabit my chosen seat. But I've soaked their sought-for portals with gasoline, being equally determined to stay put. But on they come at regular intervals, in ones and twos only, as if one sometimes needs the second as witness to carry the story of occupation back to the others, to be believed. I wonder what they think of me, and feel sorry for them, almost guilty, even imagining the dark openings they seek as being cave mouths in which they wish to store some valuable scrolls. So I'm kind to myself, reminding myself that it's my chair, my porch, though I can hear them protesting, but we were here first. Fair enough, but no matter, for I have a porch thirst. Gasoline will win the day, for another year anyway, and I will sit safely and securely behind my slatted battlements, scratching the pale page, hoping as always to be stung by poetry. And because you're making a space on the porch to be on your own, to be quiet, to stop talking. It's not just people talking at me or people talking at me through screens or me talking at people through screens or whatever. It's that, you're allowed to sit and remember things. Your childhood comes up all the time. Obviously, Ireland comes back to me. It's really a memory bank, the porch, for me. It's an incredible memory bank. And I'll finish with a poem called Breath, which I think the New Yorker's going to do it, believe it or not, which is like bizarre to me. But Breath came to me on the porch about 5 years after I had the idea. It came back to me on the porch. And very, very simply, my wife and I, when I was teaching at CVCC, reluctantly I've left CVCC because I'm doing the Appalachian doctorate thing and the graduate assistantship and all that stuff. But I really enjoyed teaching there. And so my wife picked me up one night and we went straight across the road about 11 at night to Walmart, Wally World, to get milk and bread. And I saw this couple who, it was maybe 10 o'clock at night, and they were clearly getting ready for a party and had a couple of younger kids with them, but they looked like a really loving working class couple. You could just tell that there was a loving family. And one of the older of the kids was crying for these expensive balloons. And the father was doing this amazing acting job, trying to convince them that the cheap blow-up balloons, that he would be exhausted blowing them up, and it would be really funny to see Daddy with big red cheeks and all of that. And so he talked them round, because obviously they didn't have much money. And I turned to Molly, my wife, and I said, "There's a poem in there somewhere. There's a poem in there." And she said, "Yeah, really?" And I wrote a little note in the book, but I forgot about it. And then one night sitting on the porch, it literally just hit me. I had my little notebook and I wrote the poem out and I changed 2 words of it only. It was just delivered to you. And that's what's happening the older I get. Poems are strangely channeled through you. They're delivered to you. They're given to you. But if I'm not sitting in my study or on the porch ready to get them, I'm not going to get them. I've really learned that. So thanks for putting up with me again. This is probably my 3rd time. I joked on Facebook this morning on electronic media that I was looking forward to coming here, and if they gave me another hickory stick, it was going to be a problem because Micah is now old enough to help his mother beat me with them. So hopefully that isn't the case. Good, well, okay, good. Anyway, this is Breath, and the book, by the way, I've got some with me if you want them. You don't have to buy them, but they are, Barnes & Noble are doing me a big favour. They've got a stack of them in Barnes & Noble, signed and well presented. They're actually stepping up to bat with Hickory Station. Great publisher, Press 53. They've really done me favours. Anyway, thank you. Breath. What is death but a letting go of breath? One of the last things he did was to blow up the children's balloons for the birthday party, joking and mock cursing as he struggled to tie all those footery teats. Then he flicked them into the air for the children to fight over. Some of them survived the party and were still there after the funeral, in every room of the house, bobbing around mockingly in the least draught. She thought about murdering them with her sharpest knife, each loud pop an angry bullet from her heart. Instead, in the quietness that followed her children's sleep, she patiently gathered them all up, slowly undoing each raggedy nipple, and one by one she took his last breaths into her mouth. What is life but a drawing in of breath?
Probably have time for 1 or 2 questions. Do we have anybody have any questions? No questions? Thank you very much. I think everybody enjoyed that. No hickory stick today, but we do have a book on quotes of being thankful.
Oh,
So maybe that one of those will lead to a poem.
There'll be a poem.
Doug, come on down. Steve Mall, come on down. Or if you don't want to, I'll keep it. Steve won last week.
Yay, Steve.
Ruined a good deck of cards.
I did.
$492.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, club.
So,
Obviously, we have a new deck of cards with 52 regular cards and 2 jokers. We collected $67 today.
Dream, if you want to do the honors for us? $33.50. Big money on the table today.
Roll it over.
The last 3 are 285. Past President Brown. 1 in 54 chance here. He's got it. Free lunch, 7 of diamonds. All right, let's close with the 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do,